Kate back for another Cinderella Chronicles video. It has been a while since I have done this, so if you are new here, the Cinderella Chronicles is a project that I started doing over a year ago where I just go after seeking out any retellings, movie adaptations, and picture book retellings of Cinderella. Cinderella is my absolute favorite fairy tale, and this project has been so fun to very slowly go through. I did a lot at the beginning and then I've slowed down, but I've still really enjoyed continuing on with the project. So I have some books and some movies to talk about today, and the first in the books is a middle grade Cinderella retelling called Bound. This is by Donna Napoli, and she's kind of iconic as far as middle grade fairy tale retellings go. She's got a lot out there, and I want to investigate more of hers after reading this. This was a very short and sweet one that really packed a punch. It is set in ancient China, and I think it was less than 250 pages, but I was really compelled. And to say that I was really compelled is speaking a lot to her writing, because in this one there was insta-love. And so to me, that's automatic points against Cinderella, because I think, you know, we've moved on past that in retellings where they can have more than just purely this attraction at first sight thing going, and you can build on their characters. But I still really enjoyed it despite that. I really enjoyed also, there is debate about whether the origins of Cinderella are Egyptian or Chinese, but I think most people would say it's Chinese in origin. So a lot of those, elements that are from the original retelling happen in this retelling, or that are from the original fairy tale. A lot of those elements that are there then come into play in this retelling. And so I appreciated that. You know, there are not a lot of Asian retellings of Cinderella. And so I want to keep seeking those out, because I thought it was really interesting to see the traditional elements. One being reincarnation of her mother. In this, her mother is turned into this giant fish, like a huge, huge fish that she hides in a cave. They are dirt poor, you know, being a Cinderella retelling. And in this, she just has one stepsister and one stepmother. And she is left with them and doing all of the hard work from them. And they hear that a very eligible, wealthy young man is going to be at their town, passing through. And so the stepmother does everything in her power to make her daughter look beautiful for this event. And I really loved seeing the initiative of the Cinderella character in this one. I'll put her name down below because it escapes me right now. But I love seeing the initiative that she has. She's got a lot of feistiness to her. That's what I appreciate in Cinderella retellings, is the resilience that she has, because all of the things that she goes through, she doesn't just wilt away. She is resilient, and I think it's a really admirable character trait. And then the Rat Prince. This was a really different retelling, and you get things narrated from the perspective of the rats. And it was also a different take, because the prince in this, I should have mentioned, this is a middle grade retelling as well. The prince in this was evil. And then there is a rat prince. And on the night of the ball, where Cinderella is going to meet the evil prince that she does not know is evil, the fairy godmother turns the rat prince, he is the prince of all the rats, turns him into the footman. And he has been in love with Cinderella for long. So it's kind of a weird, slightly uncomfortable retelling, because it's this animal that's in love with a human. But I think it's done in a way that it kind of works, because then once he's human, he stays human. And it was very different, but I enjoyed it because it was such a different take. And so I like seeing variety in these retellings, you know, give me something new with this story. And so I liked kind of this, no, the prince is actually, the prince, you know, Prince Charming is actually a terrible person, and you need to end up with this person that you've never noticed before or thought of as a potential suitor. And I really enjoyed it. So it was a short, sweet, middle grade retelling. And then lastly, we get to Slipper by Hester Velmans. I have very mixed feelings about this. It is set in France. It is set in Revolutionary era France, which I think is a really conducive time period for a fairy tale retelling. Kind of the best of times, worst of times type setting. But there was a lot of adult content in this. I did really like Hester Velmans, like her style as a writer. I really liked that. But there was just so much, it kind of felt like trauma porn. I don't know if you've heard that term, but just what else terrible can we throw at this girl? And she's just has all of these awful things happen to her. There's assault in it. And it just felt, the amount that was there felt unnecessary. And so I kind of get, you want to turn it into a fairy tale retelling for grown-ups, but it just felt unnecessary. I don't know, it just felt too heavy, the extent that it was there. So I did appreciate her writing, but it was just, at the end of it, well, one, I didn't love the Cinderella character. I liked her, but I didn't love her. And so overall, it was interesting, but it's not going to be a favorite book. So I enjoyed the variety. Like I said, it was a very interesting retelling, but kind of, I'm done with it. I don't think I'll revisit it, but I loved the notion of a Revolutionary France Cinderella retelling. And then we move on to the movies. I have 4 Cinderella movie adaptations to tell you about, and only one of them did I like. So I will save that one for last. But the first one that I watched was Cinderella II. This is a Disney cartoon sequel, and I think we can just acknowledge the quality in Disney cartoon sequels is really not great. I came out of this cartoon thinking that was rather mediocre. It is a sequel to Cinderella, where Cinderella is trying to adjust to, being a princess and learning how to, take on being a princess. And it was just really rather uninspiring. And I wasn't surprised. I was expecting that, but I was too curious to not watch it. And then I watched a made-for-TV movie just called Cinderella. It was made in 2000. And Lucy Plum, I think is her name. Lucy Punch, that's what it is. Lucy Punch, interestingly, plays Cinderella's stepsister in 3 Cinderella versions. So in this one, in Into the Woods, and in Ella Enchanted. And she's very good at playing a wicked stepsister. But this was just weird. It was an odd retelling with kind of some magical realism to it. I could not stand the prince. He was so arrogant. He was God's gift to women, and there was no character arc. He just stayed that way. Like, he was just a jerk throughout the whole thing. And I didn't know why at all she was interested in him. It was cold. It was lonely. There wasn't really much warmth to it. And like I said, it was just so weird. Like, the soundtrack was weird. It had these kind of mystical elements to it. And not that I mind the, mystical elements being put in a fairy tale, obviously, if it's done well, but it was just kind of, it felt very disorienting to have, this very realism take, and then all of a sudden these mystical elements that were put in. It was just very, very weird. So not a hit with me. It was intriguing to watch, but I kind of came out like, what did I just watch? And then unfortunately, I did not enjoy Into the Woods. Cinderella is only one of the characters in here. But unfortunately, I think I kind of have my musicals that I grew up with as a child. Fiddler on the Roof, Oklahoma, all the Rodgers and Hammerstein ones, 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, and then I'm kind of set as far as musicals go. I haven't watched a new musical that I've loved. So I think I'm nostalgic about the ones that I grew up with, and then I'm kind of content just being nostalgic about those ones. I have seen a live production of Into the Woods before, and it just bothers me how the first half of the story is kind of this wonderful, glamorous fairy tale, and then the second half things just go so downhill. It just seems so disorienting, and I'm just not really a good candidate to love Into the Woods. So it was not for me. So if you're going to be mad about me not liking Into the Woods, you can just see yourself out now. I'm saying I don't like it, not you are an idiot if you don't like it. Yeah, I ended up, I'm not gonna lie, I fast forwarded through some of the parts that weren't Cinderella, and I came out of it thinking, this was so long. It was so long. And then I looked and it was only just over 2 hours. So I think that speaks to my enjoyment of it. And then lastly, and something that sparked just a new love in me, I watched a Korean drama, aka K-drama adaptation called Cinderella and the Four Knights. And this is the start of just a new love of my life, watching K-dramas. You may have seen during Victober, I put up a video called, if you like this Victorian novel, watch this K-drama. I was so smitten, and I had never seen a K-drama before, and I get to the end of the first episode of this, and they always, if you haven't seen them, they always have a dramatic finish, and then, you know, in comes this like really catchy Korean pop song, and then they give you a preview of the next episode, and I was like, I have to, I can't not watch this. And what made it, you know, what do I want to say? What made it especially fun was that my husband watched the series with me, and we both adored it. So it starts out like Cinderella. Her mom died when she was little. She lives with her stepmother while her dad is away. He's a truck driver. He's away a lot of the time, and her stepmother is so mean to her. And she has one stepsister in this. She's so mean to her. And she ends up being kind of all alone. And there is this really wealthy family, and the grandfather is the CEO of this company, and he needs one of his grandsons, one of his 3 grandsons, to take over the company when he's gone. But they all don't get along. He wants them to get along, and he tells her, I will pay you to stay at the house with them and bring them together as a family, have them get along. And so she certainly has her work cut out for her, because there's all of this baggage that they have with one another, and wounds that need to be opened and healed. And it's just so compelling. Ha-won is her name in Cinderella and the Four Knights, and she has so much tenacity, so much resilience. She's one of my absolute favorite characters I've seen in any movie or TV show, and she's just great. So there were some really fun Cinderella elements in the beginning. She gets to wear a fancy dress at a fancy event that's happening, and loses her cell phone in this instance. She leaves her cell phone there. And so by the end, it doesn't feel as much like a Cinderella retelling, but it had enough of the elements, kind of this, you know, woman going up against the odds. The deck is stacked against her. If those elements are in there, it feels enough like Cinderella to me. So yes, I highly, highly recommend Cinderella and the Four Knights. So that was a really nice note to end this Cinderella Chronicles video on. And I hope that you enjoyed hearing about it. I'm continuing this project because I will just never tire of the fairy tale of Cinderella. And I will be back for another video soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.